Ladies and gentlemen, now in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the global tier list update for May 2021. And for this iteration, I've factored in the next two updates on global and all of the new characters that are going to be arriving this month, along with adding in and also ranking the Stranger Things characters as well. So we've got Chandler, we've got Zeldris, we've got ReZero, Stranger Things, Mark II Valenti, AM Melly, and like all of the characters that have been released in the last few months as well added. And if you're looking at this tier list for the first time, again, I like to rank the characters separately for PvE and PvP, a little bit about whether or not they're available in a certain coin shop, on an SSR ticket. This doesn't include like the demon tickets, and one very interesting thing for global players is 2 weeks after the release of Chandler, he is on the SSR to SR demon tickets, so you definitely want to be saving those up for a bit of a shot of Chandler, man, because he's such an incredibly overpowered character. And yeah, I'm very interested for his arrival on global. So if this is your first time checking out my tier list, again, we do have rankings for every single character in the game, and also a note section as well that aims to tell you in a line like some uses or cool abilities of that character. So you got a little bit of an idea if you pull, for example, Zaratros here, like, oh, you see his B for PvE, but like completely unusable in PvP, but he's really nice against the level 90 blue demon. And again, this is going to be coming to global a little bit later this month there, but yeah, there's just loads of notes on characters to help educate like progressing and new players as to where certain characters can be useful there. Also like Red Elizabeth here, for example, and we do have SR and R characters in different categories, has an awesome passive that can be used on the sub for healing. So yeah, she's a really strong healer on the 4th slot, because the passive just keeps the full team topped up there, which is really good. So yeah, there are so many characters in this game now, man, it's getting a little bit ridiculous. But I want to throw out the standard tier list disclaimer that 7 Deadly Sins is a very big and very complicated game. There are so many different interactions, matchups, bosses, and certain characters can be either absolutely broken or just very terrible and underwhelming. So yeah, the game is incredibly complicated, so take this tier list for what it is, a very rough guide to what I personally believe are some of the best and strongest champions in 7 Deadly Sins. And at the end of the day, this is just my opinion, and if you want to have a different opinion based on your own personal experience, that is absolutely fine as well. So anyway, now that we got that super fun disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about the big boys. So we got Halloween Gowther, still the most broken support unit in the game. Those upgrades, the passive, the ult drain, everything with Gowther just allows you to line up those game-winning plays and just have like a mega turn where you decimate the opponent. So yeah, Gowther is just still way too ridiculous, man. The one Escanor, the damage is just broken, like flat out broken. The passive is way too good, and this man, like having the debuff immunity pretty much stretching over 2 turns just makes him so crazy, man, and so hard to deal with in PvP. Like Tag DM really is kind of the fighting force against the one Escanor, but Assault Meliodas, especially with Chandler as well, starting to push back even more there, which is really nice to see. So yeah, Escanor, there are more characters that are keeping this man in check, but again, if Escanor gets like lucky on the card draw, dude, again, this guy just goes absolutely insane. And then we got Goddess Elizabeth, still a very annoying character, man. The shield sucks, the revive sucks, the stun sucks, everything about this character sucks, man. She's just super annoying to deal with, but also even in PvE, her ultimate to like heal everybody up and reflect damage is just crazy good, man. It's so powerful there. And then we've got Assault Meliodas. So I think with the introduction of Chandler especially, man, but also Zeldris in certain matches as well, like AM Melly is just, he's got to be broken OP tier. Like the character has so much damage output, so much potential, and you need to play so carefully around Assault Melly. And at the moment, it's a little bit easier to kind of calculate those game-winning plays, but when Chandler comes in with his additional ability disables and he's kind of like cucking upgrades on the one Escanor and also reducing all stats of the one Escanor and various damaging characters, it becomes a lot more difficult to kind of like calculate exactly what that reliable game-winning play is to get Assault Melee down. And then if you like throw Zeldris into the mix for the ult control and also additional commandment, which is like cucking Escanor even more, then yeah, it just becomes very very difficult to calculate that perfect game-winning play on Assault Melee, man, because there are so many different variables in play, and if Escanor doesn't get lucky, again, there's just even more opportunity to punish with Assault Melee. So yeah, I think moving forward, like Assault Melee, he's just broken OP for PvP, and I think the more demons that we get this year that are kind of at that Chandler level, just the better he is going to get. So yeah, I think he deserves that ranking. Also, he's just broken for Guild Wars as well, man. I know Guild Wars like isn't a mode of gameplay that a lot of people have access to at the moment, but he's like the #1 broken character by an absolute country mile. But that kind of comes under PvE to a certain extent. But yeah, I think Assault Meliodas is kind of worthy of like that broken OP ranking. And then we got Sariel. Sariel is still like a massive force against pushing back against certain green units, and we've seen a lot of these recently pop up with like Melli, Valenti, Festival Merlin. So yeah, Sariel is still slapping like very, very hard, and even against blue units like the one Escanor, man, you know, you get a decent support team, you put a tank Diana in the way, like he is, he's popping off, man. The damage is crazy, and for PvE, just absolute cheat code champion. And then we got Chandler. So Chandler again is an upcoming character on Global, should be out in about 3.5 weeks time. But yeah, Chandler is just ridiculous for PvE, man. The counters hit so incredibly hard. He also has the ability to disable like secondary effects on certain skills, and that is crazy for PvP. There is so much value because if you use it on like Halloween Gowther, it prevents like all of his cards from working, so you don't get the ult drain on pumpkin bombs, you don't get the upgrades. So this then allows you to line up a play where you can either mitigate the damage quite heavily next turn, or kind of rush an ultimate without fear of getting pumpkin bombs and drained, or you can like cut Goddess Liz, you can remove her stance disable and stun card, and for a character that uses stance, to be able to cuck over that card is like massive wins there. And also just get rid of the shielding ability. You can use it when she's about to ult, and she like won't actually do anything off her ultimate as well. So yeah, Chandler is just so good for support. And again, every time the opponent uses a skill card, it reduces all of their stats by 7% for one turn there. So not only does it kind of cuck their turn, but also makes them a little bit more flimsy on the counterplay as well. So yeah, your Melli can hit even harder there. So yeah, that's always a very nice time. And then we got Red Gowther. So one thing that we're starting to see is just even more characters that are increasingly vulnerable to attack disable. So you got like Festival Merlin, Assault Melli, Sariel, like 3 big characters that are vulnerable to attack disable. Also for the first 2 turns, the one Escanor again gets massively screwed over by that as well. But attack disable is just becoming increasingly more valuable in the current meta. And also Red Gowther for PvE, you know, if you don't have Green Gowther, like he still works like absolutely fine in the majority of scenarios, and it's still just an amazing support character. However, I'm still of the opinion that Green Gowther overall, depending on the team and setup, is a little bit better, but also like Fest Merlin and also the ReZero characters being unknown. Again, there's like a lot of good and stronger unknown teams coming moving forward as well. So yeah, Red Gowther, really cool champion. Fest Merlin just hits like a truck, man. She's so annoying to kill. Like Fest Merlin is probably one of the main characters alongside Assault Mode Meliodas that's kind of preventing like 11 from really popping off in PvP at the moment. Like Fest Merlin is just crazy, dude. When I was recording 11 PvP this week, and we showed like a couple of clips of it on the channel during certain videos, especially the UR one, you just watch like my 11 just get one shot by Fest Merlin's cleave, man. She's got so much damage output, and the passive makes her really hard to kill. I was kind of debating on the PvE ranking, but I think with the ReZero unknown teams and having the additional support from Ram as well, or technically Rom is the way that it's said in the anime, but with green maid support on the backline, again, it just allows Festival Merlin to go even harder, especially when paired with Red Gowther to slow down certain units as well. So yeah, I really like Fest Merlin, man. She's super fun to play. And then also, I don't know if this is a controversial pick or not, but I actually put Tarmiel in the broken OP tier, because if we look back on the channel, like every time I want to showcase unit that's like not quite top meta. It's usually with like Green Gowther, Tarmiel, and then either like Esther or Gilthunder on the back line, because Tarmiel and Green Gowther, man, they just absolutely carry. And also with the introduction of Chandler, Chandler fits in so perfectly on the mega toxic tank team. So you have Tarmiel, Chandler, Halloween Gowther, and then either like Esterosa or Gilthunder on the back, or you can just go like Chandler, Esther, Tarmiel front line, and that is mega toxic as well. But with Chandler, man, like tank teams get a lot more toxic, so definitely watch out for those, because those are going to be coming in droves with the release of the Zeldris and Chandler banner there. But yeah, I think Tarmiel is just, he's a big carrying character, man, and I was kind of tempted to put SS ranking for PVE as well, just because he was like the #1 carrying support unit for Final Boss Escanor, because he has the damage reduction, you got the drain, you've got the healing off the ultimate, so yeah, he's just like a very powerful support unit for PVE. But I think S is probably the appropriate ranking, because, you know, he's not like anything maybe like mega broken, he's just like such a good support unit for PVE. But when it comes to PvP, the ultimate is just so good. If you've got him like, you know, 5-6, 6-6, that just wipes the entire team, man, and also gets your team topped up in the process. And also on top of that, his unique ability, what is it, straight off like takes off a massive pool of the opponent's health as well. So yeah, that just allows like his ultimate, Gowther's ultimate, Chandler's ultimate, just to absolutely destroy opponents. So yeah, I love Tarmiel, man. Tarmiel's just ridiculously strong. Then next up we got Lostvayne Meliodas, and I thought it was appropriate that we moved him down from SS to S, just because Lostvayne gets bonked so easily by the one Escanor. Sariel in comparison is a fair bit more tanky, but Lostvayne gets crit so easy in the current meta, and he's just like much easier to get down. But in the right scenario in PvP, again, he can be a very good backline unit, and if you hide him behind Tank Dian, again, still can work out very well there. However, Lostvayne is still, in my opinion, just broken for PvE. The ultimate is just insanely overpowered, and there are so many easy scenarios in PvE where like the opponents are just critting into your Lostvayne, like upgrading everything, and you're just going ham on the damage. So Lostvayne is still like top tier for PvE in my opinion, but I think the one Escanor just bonks him a little bit too hard. So yeah, maybe Lostvayne's going to make a bit of a comeback in the future, but I thought it would be appropriate to move him down a little bit. And then we got Green Esterosa, again, still broken for PvE. If you do have a Gowther, you get those golden counters off, the man just pops off, you got so much life steal, really good damage reduction, debuff immunity as well. So yeah, really love the Esther there. Then we also got Derriere. Derriere is just one of those characters, man, that has just broken single target damage. She's like the #1 guild boss character. If there's like any big final boss or any big boss in general where you can use like Derriere's ult to just one-shot them, again, she's just broken for that. And then we got 11, who is essentially like Blue Sariel when it comes to PvE content, but also has the added advantage of like topping everybody up fully with her ultimate, because yeah, you got some massive damage off that, plus like a 40% of that damage as a heal for the entire team. So yeah, if like Final Boss Escanor was to return tomorrow, I think 11 would be one of the best, if not the best and most reliable damage dealing option there. So yeah, I've got high hopes for her in the future for PvE content. It's also really strong for auto farming as well, has a great ordering to her cards where she always uses the cleave card and then the single target one, and just like every PvE showcase I've done with 11 has just like really impressed me. So yeah, I really like 11, man. I think she's a solid addition. And then we got Green Fighter Dian. Green Fighter Dian is arguably what is it, SS tier for PvP at the moment, just because she like guards against the one Escanor. But I think with the introduction of Chandler, we're going to be seeing like less Glue Eater, more AM melee, more tank teams, and Green Fighter Dian is like all right against those teams, but again, you need like massive damage ramp up. So yeah, I think like S tier is probably the appropriate place for her at the moment with all the one Escanor. But again, we're going to be seeing a shift away from what is it, so much Escanor in the meta, so I think like S tier ranking is pretty appropriate there. Green Valenti is arguably SS as well for PvP. Like I've got a fully well Green Valenti, man, absolutely love her. She's probably one of my favorite characters to play just for a little bit of fun. You got Sariel's cleave card, you've also got the same card as Chandler to kind of cut additional effects off cards, so no upgrades, no Liz shields, no Liz ult there. So yeah, she's really fun and also just absolutely smokes the one Escanor. Escanor. So yeah, I might evaluate this at some point in the future, but also her ultimate just hits like a truck as well. But Green Valenti is a character that released with just a terrible banner, man. It's like 0.25, 600 guaranteed as well, and ideally does need like a fairly high ult level if you want the consistent wins on that one. But yeah, she's a fun character. I like her. And then we got Kyo. Kyo for like certain teams, man, is still pretty nuts. The ignites are really nice for all sorts of characters and synergies. I know like Speedy's been in some cool videos with like Kyo and the new Fest Zeldris as well. So yeah, there's some cool stuff that can work out there. Red Zeldris really good for his commandment, and also unique on the AM melee teams. He's kind of mainly a backline unit for like the additional stats there, but again, still works out very well. And then we got Rem. Rem hits like a friggin' truck, man. She's got so much damage output. Very good for just like quickly butchering down Assault Mode Meliodas, and also having the additional ultimate effect disable and 50% ult damage reduction. Again, she's quite interesting against AM melee teams. Has the potential maybe to be SS, but the problem is she's a collab character. You can't get her cosmetics without paying, and also on top of that, she's a little bit vulnerable to the one Escanor, and also unknown, so she can't synergize with Green Gowther as well. But yeah, maybe I might reevaluate Rem when it does come out to a global release, but I need to do a little bit more testing. And then we got Amelia. Now, Amelia is really fun and very interesting on certain teams. I think the problem with Amelia is, in terms of like top meta stuff, I think she gets cucked pretty easily by the release of Chandler, because if you got Chandler with like Esterosa, man, then you're fully immune to debuffs, and Amelia has Gowther's Pumpkin Bombs card, and she has a freeze. So if you stance on Chandler and Esther, then she can't really like do anything aside from the ult, and the ult is Lostvayne Melee's ult, but then if you use the card disable from Chandler on Amelia, then it just like massively cucks the damage. So yeah, Chandler like massively screws over Amelia. So just something to keep in mind moving forward. But again, if there's no Chandler, if there's no Tarmiel, no Esterosa, again, she can go ham. So against some conventional Glue Eater teams, really good. Assault Melee teams, maybe not so good. But again, she's a bit of an interesting character, man, and very toxic against certain matchups and scenarios. So yeah, Amelia is definitely like a fun one. Very good, very interesting character. But again, he's going to get cucked, I believe, quite quickly by the release of Chandler and the continued rise of tank teams there. And then we got Ram, who's kind of like mainly backline support for unknown teams. She's got Goddess Liz's stun card and also Ludo's Rapture card as well, so you can get through shields there, but also gives unknown teams like 20% base stats, so it makes them tankier and hit even harder there. And then we got Green Merlin for her sub to get one additional ult gauge. Again, still very good, very fun for ult rush teams, useful for certain stuff in PvE and occasionally used in PvP. Green Merlin is a bit rarely seen now, but again, on the right team, can definitely be very trolly. And then we got Festival Zeldris. So Festival Zeldris is a character that's very good support for Assault Mode Meliodas, providing you're not fighting like a Tarmiel, Green Esterosa, Chandler tank team, because again, he's got the same or an improved version of Gowther's Pumpkin Bomb, so it doesn't deal any damage, but instead it also can lock out ults for a certain amount of turns as well. So again, that can be super valuable, because if you throw off a silver, it locks out the ult immediately, but then also like drains next turn, so it kind of covers you for 2 turns there. So yeah, Festival Zeldris in the right meta against the right teams is really good, and also his commandment for like slowing down the opponent is also very strong as well, especially when paired with Chandler. But again, if you're fighting like a Tarmiel tank team, bro, then yeah, he's a bit cheeks, because if they go like immune to debuffs, then he can't really do too much to control the match there. So yeah, Festival Zeldris, like, he's not the worst character, but he's not the best either. Like, he's got some scenarios and matchups where he really does shine, but overall, I think the real Festival unit when that banner does come out is Chandler. I think Chandler is so much better in comparison. And then we got Green Droll, Blue Droll, Melascula, Glocks. Again, all very good support units depending on the teams in the meta and what you're commonly fighting for Assault Mode Meliodas there. Glocks is like really, really fun against like Lolly Merlin teams. So yeah, I still really like Glocks, man. Glocks is one of my favorite characters. And then we got Ludo. Ludo, I mainly like using Ludo in the back nowadays if I'm using like a green tank Diane team for when she dies, and then I've got got my like damaging character that just like whips out a crazy play with a passive, but also a Super Awakening 5 Ludo's combat class does take a fair hit, so yeah, it means that in ungeared PvP, against a lot of the top tier characters, it doesn't often apply, even if you do have them fully welled out, because like the one Escanor and a few other characters, they just have higher base CC there, so yeah, Ludo is kind of like fallen off, but again, if you're a massive whale bully and like free to play, again, Ludo's still like a very good character. Denzel, Halloween Roxy, Green Arthur, Escanor Hawk, all amazing characters of PvE. I would say like Halloween Roxy and also Escanor are still like viable. They're still good characters to use in PvP, but both of them are a little bit flimsy when it comes to like certain matches and scenarios. Again, Sariel just cuts down Roxy and Escanor so quick, and if you queue into a what is it, Rem as well, Rem is going to annihilate both of those characters. So yeah, just something to keep in mind there. And then going down, we got all sorts of characters. We got like Fest King, Demon Hendrickson. Again, these two have really fallen off, especially with the rise of like Assault Mode Meliodas, and also more Tamiel, Esterosa, Chandler tank teams there. So yeah, Fest King. If you're like lower ranks in the PvP and you're not fighting like too much of that, again, can be useful for climbing. But I would say Fest King's like best use is for manual farming, and Hendrickson's best use is for auto farming there. But Fest King is really good for both the Anvil and also the Super Awakening Coin Dungeon. Jim is really fun with the collab units, man. So I'm interested to try out some teams of the ReZero characters when they do land on global, because his passive is so good for the support. It's like 40% more damage and also like a massive poison as well based off the damage dealt. So yeah, Jim Hopper, I think definitely sends up the value of a lot of collab characters there. So yeah, very nice we got him for free. And then kind of moving down, again, not too many characters that I feel like we need to talk about. Then moving down, we got Mike and Will. Mike is alright, man. He's not too bad. He's got like a pretty strong attack reduction, passive debuff. But again, he's just like not really the most impressive character out there. And Will's a little bit interesting. Again, in the right scenario, he can have some alright damage, but he's like a pretty mid character. And his passive ability, if the opponent just like one-shots you 50% or above, then it won't trigger the cheat death there, and people learn to play around Will like very, very quickly. I think we're like Tamiel, Tank, Deanne, you can still have a little bit of fun on those characters that do add additional damage reduction variables to the mix. But again, Will, he isn't like amazing. I would say the highlight of the collab is by far 11. Jim's pretty good. Will and Mike, they're all right. They're like usable characters, but again, you are going to get clapped by like super sweaty tryhard whales with top tier teams there. So yeah, Mike and Will, like, they're okay, man. They're not too bad. And then somewhere we got Beatrice as well. Beatrice is actually like really good for healing unknown teams in PvE and Guild Wars. But in PvP, again, we're still like in a massive burst meta, and Beatrice, like, she just doesn't have a place in conventional PvP at the moment. But for Beatrice in Guild Wars, man, definitely keep an eye out. We've come up with some insane ReZero teams from the Korean version. So yeah, got some really exciting stuff, hopefully, to share with you guys. But again, it's not quite as strong as the AM Melee team, but it's still like a pretty good offense team there. So yeah, ReZero's very interesting for Sweaty Whale Guild Wars, and Amelia really does get a chance to shine in Guild Wars as well. So yeah, overall, that's it for the May tier list update. So hopefully you did enjoy it, and if you did, please do smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.
You are not subscribed to the whale sin of spending? Who decided that? Subscribe now, or enjoy the bitter taste of regret.